Hello everyone, and welcome to your weekly roundup from the 50th Annual World Series of Poker, courtesy of our sponsor and the sponsor of the WSOP 888 Poker. Well, a lot has gone down at the Rio All Suite Hotel and Casino since the last highlights video on June 5th, which you'll find linked below, so find a comfy seat, grab your favorite beverage, and let's dig in. First off, take a look at the newest members of the elite club of World Series of Poker champions. The most dramatic and controversial situation to arise in the first week of the series was no doubt the fold out of turn by Sam Soverel. In the 50K high roller, all eyes were on this drama. There's been much speculation about the possibility that Soverel was either angle shooting or it was a genuine mistake. Now, some have made their judgments based on Soverel's reputation or on his past behavior, and some have based it on his performance in the live stream. But for those who were actually there at the table, there seems to be some consensus. Both Lucky Chewy and Ben Heath felt that it was an accident. Now, since Ben Heath ultimately went on to win the event, I, for one, was extremely curious to get his perspective. And our very own Oliver Biles spoke to Heath, and he made some very good points as to why he thought it was an accident.
I mean, I thought the situation with the floor was ridiculous. I think regardless of whether his intention, like even if we knew 100% his intention, it was just a mistake, he should just get a penalty, because otherwise it opens the door for people to do this in the future.
Absolutely.
The whole final table, in these shot clock events, you can gain EV by not making it clear what your stack is, because then I have to find out before the hand. Yeah. Whenever I even looked at Sam's stack in between hands, he would just tell me exactly how much he had or count down the stacks. So, you know, he's never going to get called out for not doing that. Okay. So it's like a risk-free spot to gain EV, and he wasn't taking it and was being fair. Mm-hmm. So it would be like contradictory to me to, you know, not take a spot he would never get called out for, and then take one that he's clearly going to get called out for. Yeah. And also, everyone I've spoken to assumed that he would have got a penalty.
Right. Yeah.
Like even tournament directors I've spoken to since, other tournament directors said they would have given him a penalty regardless of intention. Okay. So from his point of view, he has to think he's going to get a penalty. Yeah. So, like, is it even worth it to take, considering he might just get sat out for 3 orbits, three-handed now? You know, or like what if H.O.R.S.E has jacks and I now call 8s or something, and he just loses? He had 17 bigs. If he gets a 3-orbit penalty, it's 7.5 bigs.
That's very true.
And he can't know he wasn't going to get a penalty.
Speaking of the 50K, the World Series of Poker has added an additional one. It's very rare for the World Series of Poker to add events after the series has kicked off, but they've made an exception this year. The WSOP announced the 90th bracelet event for the 50th Annual World Series of Poker, the $50,000 Final 50 High Roller. It'll kick off on July 8th and run for 3 days. Asked about the reason for the late edition, WSOP executives cited player feedback. They said, "We've got some feedback from players who thought that the initial 50K event was way too early in the series and they weren't around for it. We also goofed by not having a 25K high roller no limit hold'em on the schedule this year, which was more feedback that we received from the players." Jim Bechtel set a record in the second week of the World Series of Poker after he shipped the 10K no limit deuce to 7 lowball draw championship for the longest time between 2 bracelet wins. 26 years ago, Arizona cotton farmer Jim Bechtel topped a 231-player field to win the 1993 WSOP main event for $1 million. He became just the second amateur to win the big one after Hal Fowler did it in 1979. While Bechtel has made periodic returns to Vegas over the past 3 decades, it wasn't until this week that he was able to do it again. Last week, we reported how Dan Zach had raced out to an early lead in the 2019 WSOP Player of the Year race, and a week later, he's maintained his position, while the rest of the top 10 below him has been in constant flux. Have a look at the leaderboard this morning. The World Series of Poker is a place where dreams come true, but occasionally, it's hard to tell the dreams from the nightmares. During day 2 of the 10K Omaha High-Low, Jeremy Hartberg was seated next to none other than the 2 Phils.
seated between the two Phils, Phil Hellmuth and Phil Ivey. They both late registered, so I had no idea it was going to happen until I sat down. I looked left, I looked right. I'm like, holy shit. I couldn't believe it. I don't usually get too starstruck, but especially Ivey.
In addition to bringing you live updates and both feature and recap articles from the 50th Annual World Series of Poker, the PokerNews family of podcasts is also releasing regular episodes. The PokerNews family of podcasts is comprised of 2 Global Poker Award nominated shows, and I highly suggest you check them all out, where we cover everything from home games to game theory. And if you happen to be in Las Vegas, all 5 shows are joining forces to host the PokerNews Family of Podcasts event at Planet Hollywood. The 120 plus 30 buy-in tournament has been added to their Goliath Famous Poker Series schedule for Monday, July 8th at 7 p.m. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to the #1 source for poker news in the world for your coverage of the World Series of Poker. I'm Sarah Herring. You're watching PokerNews.com.